Welcome back. All right, continuing the playlist looking at teams that have missed the playoffs. And we're up to Seattle. So this is the sixth team that I've talked about. So we have 10 more. And then we get into teams that got knocked out in the first round and so forth. But we'll talk about Seattle today, the Seattle Kraken. Another subpar season for them. And so we've seen a shakeup already. And we'll talk about the shakeup that's taken place with this organization and what that might mean. But their first season, we'll go back there, and we've got the 4 years they've played on the board. They were 27, 49, and 6 for 60 points during that 2021-2022 season. Fine for an expansion team in the following year. Things were pretty good. 46, 28, and 8 record, 100 points. They haven't got back to that standard since, though. 2023-2024, they finished 34, 35, and 13 for 81 points. And this year they actually got one more win, but they got fewer points. 35, 41, and 6 record, 76 points. Interestingly enough, they scored 30 more goals than they did the previous year, but they also allowed 29 more. So one thing that happened in the 2023-2024 season was that both Grubauer and Decord played well. And this season, the play fell off for Grubauer, and the defensive play, I think, of the Kraken fell off a little bit there too. So, something they're going to be looking to fix. Now, looking at their leading scorers, you have McCann, 82 games, 22 goals, 39 assists, 61 points. McCann's been their best forward throughout their existence, as shown when we get to the all-time over here. We'll talk about that. Chandler Stevenson, 78 games, 13 goals, 38 assists, 51 points. And that contract largely panned when it was signed, and I don't know that Stevenson's performance this year has been one that'll move the needle. If you thought it was a bad signing when they signed it, you will still think that. If you think Chandler Stevenson was worth every penny they signed him for, you will find reasons for that as well. Then there's Jaden Schwartz. He's been here from day one. 81 games, 26 goals, 23 assists, 49 points. And Shane Wright took that next step in the second half of the season. He finishes with 79 games, 19 goals, 25 assists, 44 points. Shane Wright has gradually come along. I would say next season, 60 points, at least 60. Matty Beniers has not lit things up the way that I think we had hoped he might. 82 games, 20 goals, 23 assists, 43 points, but still good defensive forward. 43 points, 20 goals is not awful. Decord was 27, 23, and 5, a 906 save percentage. But undercutting that is Grubauer's record of 8-17 and 1 and 875 save percentage. I guess I could go out on a limb and say this might be Grubauer's last year in Seattle, but that contract's tough to trade. So do they buy it out? What are we going to see with Seattle this summer? It's going to be interesting, and we'll get to the contracts in a bit here. Actually, I should talk about the contracts first and then get back into that second column. So, Matty Beniers, cap hit $7.14 million until 2031. I think that's a fine cap hit for him, especially with the salary cap now going up again. Chandler Stevens, $6.25 million cap hit until 2031. So I'm not sure that the cap hit was what people found egregious. I think it was the length of the contract that people felt was egregious at the time. It is a lot of money being paid to a guy who had 13 goals and 51 points. But Stevenson had some good runs during the season as well, so we'll see how that ages. Jaden Schwartz, $5.5 million cap hit for one more year. So if Seattle gets off to a slow start, we're going to hear rumors about Schwartz as a rental and all that fun stuff. Burakovsky, $5.5 million cap hit till 2027, needs to stay healthy. For Burakovsky, that's the trick. Stay healthy. It is a challenge that he's still fighting. And if Burakovsky can ever have a season where he plays 80-plus games, I would expect him to be in that 20 to 25 goal range at the very least. He's a talented forward. Just it's been a tough go for him. McCann, a $5 million cap hit till 2027. Even with his stats being down into the 60-point range, that $5 million cap hit's perfectly fine. Absolutely perfectly fine. And I think McCann likes playing in Seattle a lot. He's finally one of the go-to guys on a team. I think that's what he wanted. And so there he is. Vince Dunn, $7.35 million cap hit until 2027. Absolutely fair for what he does for them. In fact, being the number 2 all-time scorer for the team through their first 4 years, I think Dunn's produced quite well for them. Brandon Montour had a good year, his first year in Seattle offensively. $7.15 million cap hit until 2031. So I don't think he's going anywhere either. Larson, $5.25 million cap hit for Adam Larson until 2029. I think Larson's played some of his best hockey with Seattle too. So there are definitely some bright spots in this team worthy of discussion, especially when you look at the blue line. I think their blue line's all right, even though they allowed 29 more goals than the previous season. Grubauer, $5.9 million cap hit till 2027. It will be interesting to see what they do when it comes to Grubauer and what they're going to do for their goaltending next year, because Joey Decord's been very good. He has a $5 million cap hit until 2030. Decord's been good for them, but they need to figure out that backup spot. Either Grubauer ends up going down to the minors, either they buy him out, or something's got to happen there, because of his 4 years in Seattle, I think Grubauer's had one pretty good season out of the four. And I would go with 2023, 2024 as being that pretty good season. So, coming back over to this column here, because I feel like it works, $21.75 million in cap space as of July the 1st this year. And a lot of guys still signed throughout. They don't have any really noteworthy UFAs to be concerned with. So some of that $21.75 million will go to UFA signings, but it will be interesting to see once the RFAs get signed, because there are a couple of RFAs that are going to eat into that, how much money they have left over for other players. Seattle, I think, is a star forward away from really truly getting into contention in the West. They don't really have a star forward. So maybe one of the guys who's coming up can be that guy. But yeah, it's something that I think they need. Now, for draft picks this year, they have 2 second-round draft picks and 2 fourth-round draft picks. They do have some stockpiling of first-round draft picks beyond that. 2026 and 2027, they have 2 first-round draft picks. In 2026, they also have 2 fourth-round draft picks. 2027, they have 2 second-round draft picks. Now, one talking point is going to be simply Jason Botterill takes over as general manager. Now, we can point to his checkered past with Buffalo, but the one name that sticks in my mind is Don Waddell. When Don Waddell was hired by the Carolina Hurricanes, his previous experience was in Atlanta, and it was not a great experience in Atlanta. Of course, Atlanta ends up moving to Winnipeg, and Winnipeg's had Kevin Cheveldayoff as their GM. But for Botterill, I'm willing to say pencils heavy racers. We'll see how he does in a different city than Buffalo. He's not the first or the last GM who's failed to get Buffalo into the playoffs. Now, the coaching, currently vacant. They do not have a coach as of yet. There's been a lot of talk about who that next coach might be. I think there's a lot of teams right now looking for experience. And so that coaching carousel where you see the same guys being recycled, we may see that here too. It is interesting that Dan Bilesma loses his job. It looks like a lot of the assistants are still there, but that may change. You may end up with a head coach coming in who says, look, I want to work with these people. They're ones I'm comfortable with. We do see that. So we'll see if in October the rest of the staff behind the bench stays the same. My guess is probably not. In terms of goal scoring, the NHL median appears to be Seattle. They were 16th in goals scored per game at 2.99, just below 3. They were 24th in goals against per game at 3.2. That is too high. Their power play, 23rd in the league at 18.9%. Their penalty kill, 21st in the league at 77.2%. So Seattle's in that space where they're not like really bad and they're not getting those number 1 draft picks, but they're also not good enough to get into the playoffs at this point. So they're kind of in that middle spot there. Now, if they did win the draft lottery and end up getting the number 1 draft pick this year, that would go a long way towards fixing things. Even though it's a defenseman that's going to go first this year in the draft, I think if Seattle got the number 1 draft pick, I don't think they'd be complaining about getting Schaefer at all. Now, their upcoming players, there are 2 that I think are worthy of looking at. Berkeley Catton, a center. He'll get every opportunity, I would think, to make it onto the roster in time for next season. And Carson Rakoff, a left winger, has generated a lot of discussion about how good he could end up being once he reaches the National Hockey League. Those are the 2 prospects, to me anyways, in the Seattle organization that they might look at bringing in, because getting forwards that can score might go a long way to getting them closer to a playoff spot. Even though I understand that their goal scoring went up, there's still not enough here. This is still, they don't have anybody anywhere near a point per game, and I'm not sure that that's going to change next season. Like I said, Wright probably goes into the 60-point range. Maybe Beniers ends up in the 60-point range, but there isn't really that star forward to get them to that next level. So the all-time leaders, the top three in terms of their scoring, McCann, 315 games, 118 goals, 125 assists, 243 points. Very good throughout his time with the team. Vince Dunn, 275 games, 43 goals, 41 assists, 184 points. Vince Dunn's gone to that next level in Seattle. And Jordan Eberle, 281 games, 67 goals, 110 assists, 177 points. I don't know if Eberle necessarily is back next year. We'll see what happens there. And I say that only because if Jason Botterill wants to switch things up, maybe we see Eberle's name end up on the trade block, right? That kind of thing. If you want to change things up, you have to move out veterans. You have to, try to get those shakeups to your forward group. Maybe there's going to be a shakeup. I mentioned with net, maybe on the blue line as well. Beniers, he's played 249 games so far. 62 goals, 84 assists, 146 points, which is once again a little bit less than I think we might have expected when he was drafted so highly. But he does provide you that defensive cover. He's a good defensive forward. Capo Caco, after arriving for the New York Rangers this year, 49 games, 10 goals, 10 goals, 20 assists for 30 points. So Caco's point production has been better in Seattle. I will be interested to see what he does next season. Over a full year, right from training camp on. Maybe he can get into the 50-point range as well for Seattle. But it's that star forward that you want. Now, they have 3 noteworthy restricted free agents this summer. Capo Caco, I would think you probably give him a bridge deal of 2 or 3 years. Cartier, probably a 2-year deal for Cartier. Riker Evans will be interesting. Riker Evans got off to a really strong start to the season. Faded a bit scoring-wise later on in the season. But Evans has the look of a guy who's going to be a top 4 defenseman. And do you want to sign him to a long-term deal? Do you make it a 4-year deal? 2-year deal? We'll see. But those are the 3. We know that they've given Beniers a long-term contract. And at some point in time, they're going to be looking to do that as well for Shane Wright, I would think. So there's some good pieces with Seattle. I'm just not sure if I can look at this team and say, well, clearly, if they just fix a couple of things, they're a playoff team next year. I think it might take a little while, but we'll see what Botterill does this summer. Let me know your thoughts. What would you do with the cap space that they have? Free agents, trades, or just hold on to the cap space? Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.